Good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Vols baseball team started their final SEC regular season series last night, strong with a 10-7 win in Game 1 against Arkansas. Game 2 tonight, Liam Doyle is on the mound for the Vols, and you can catch that game right here on The Zone starting at 6:15. The NBA playoffs continue as last night the Denver Nuggets escaped elimination with a 117-109 win over the Thunder. That series heads to Game 7 in OKC. Tip-off is Sunday at 2:30 in the Eastern Conference. Game 6 between the Celtics and the Knicks is tonight. Tip-off at 7 p.m. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your own for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation, we'll be joined by Jordan Ajani of CBS Sports coming up at 1:20 and go around the NFL with him. And Blaine, Jackson, I kind of want to talk to you both about this discussion that we had this morning about this University of Tennessee Adidas versus Nike discussion. And because I've never really thought about it from the player's perspective at all, that you guys would have a preference in cleats and, you know, how things fit and how things feel and all that kind of stuff. And Blaine, when you were going through, whether it's college or the pros or anything, I mean, how important was it that you had a certain brand, or how much were you looking at that when you were making your decisions and stuff, or talking about all this kind of stuff? Like, I mean, I don't know what you wore in college. I don't really remember what you guys probably wore, you know, back when you guys were playing for, you know, the Titans and stuff. But like, was it a big deal what kind of cleats and who you guys were partnered with and all that kind of stuff when you were playing?
Well, Jackson, since you're part of this conversation, you can go first.
Well, I was going to ask him about the fan perspective, not the player perspective.
I mean, well, he would know from a perspective of that generation of players. He knows some of the UT players, I'm sure. So, I mean, is that a big second? Before I go, I got to do something.
From everything I've heard, the players love Nike.
Yeah. Well, from a fan perspective, from you, because I've never cared about what brand or anything that any of the anybody wore, you know, as far as any of the teams I root for anytime. And so for you, when this got announced yesterday, you and Joseph kind of talked about it, but a lot of UT fans apparently care. I'm sure that's not UT fan base only thing, but from your perspective, why should fans care?
So Tennessee was partnered with Adidas up until 2015, and some of the stuff that came out from Adidas towards the end was less than stellars. So I think fans are more concerned. We're going to go back to, you know, I think a lot of fans like their Nike merch. They love the stuff Nike has done with the Tennessee brand. They think it looks clean. They think it's a classic look with that Tennessee is had with Nike, and I just don't think they want to transition away from it.
But what's different from the fan perspective in the jerseys that they buy? I mean, it's orange. It's got white on it and the letters. I mean, what is the difference, though? Like, that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around is, like, if you were a fan buying a jersey, I don't know, like a Target or a Dick's, I mean, what's the difference between an Adidas jersey and a Nike jersey?
The design. I mean, look at the smoky grays from Nike this past season and look at the smoky grays Adidas put out in 2014, 2013. I mean, the design is night and day different, and the Tennessee design now looks so much better.
But is that a brand-specific thing, or just that we're now in 2024 instead of 2014 and design trends are different? That's what I guess I'm trying to figure out.
We won't know until if and when Tennessee changes.
Yeah, we are in 2025.
Yeah,
I would say when I was playing, For me, it was always about brand recognition. So whatever is a more popular, let's say if you had Nike versus Air Jordan, would the student body or players want more Jordans depending on the type, what you grew up in, what you wanted?
Yeah.
So being a late round pick, I was contracted with Reebok, which I signed a 2 or 3 year deal. And I wasn't a Reebok guy. I didn't even have Reeboks at all.
Yeah.
But guess what? They were going to pay me to wear their gloves and their shoes. I said, okay, I can't be picky, so I'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
Right. And then as soon as my contract was up, I went with Nike because now I'm a proven player. I'm in the league and now I'm in the Pro Bowl. So I was like, okay, I'm getting with Nike. So I switched up to Nike. It wasn't like the Nike brand was just better. It was more popular.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and for me personally, and I think I grew up, wearing Nikes, Nike.
Yeah.
So it just kind of more so that than anything. There were parts of Reebok that I liked, actually getting used to wearing them in games. I was like, oh man, this is a little bit better than Nike in certain areas. So I think it's more now in this generation, I would say what's more popular. I know they could talk about the material and the look. So whatever looks sweeter to them, which probably is always going to be a little bit Nike over Adidas.
Right.
But in certain things, of course, Adidas is maybe better with, certain gear, but that doesn't parlay into your uniform.
Right.
So I would probably say that. But to be honest, I really didn't care, to be honest. I was just happy to be in the league or getting a contract, and whatever product wanted to give me the best deal, I was gonna be.
So
with.
even when it came down to cleats, you're just like, it doesn't matter what kind of cleat I got, really, because you're like, hey, I'm just happy to be in the NFL.
Yeah, well, at first, the part that I missed to tell you is that I didn't have a contract even with Reebok initially.
Gotcha.
So it took like 5 games in for them to even give me a contract. And so, it's what's popular. So
what do you wear? Just whatever the team provides at that point?
Yes, that's what I did. Yeah. So, and then I started wearing stuff I wanted to wear.
Yeah.
It was Nike brand. I was wearing volleyball shoes. And, hey, man, I would do anything to make me feel like mentally that I was just so fast with these shoes on.
It's kind of like when you're running and a lot of people run with the fist. And then at some point in the 90s, it was said that you could run faster if you put out your hands and fingers together, like you're cutting through air.
Yeah.
But it really probably doesn't make you faster.
Well, I definitely don't want to run with fists because you kind of clutch up and get tight.
Yeah.
I learned all these things running indoor track at Ball State. So,
gotcha.
Really, in high school, if you're fast, you're fast. And, I made it to the finals and got 8 out of 8, 2 years in a row. So, in the 100-meter final. But I definitely didn't know how to run then. I was just a runner. And I would, what also is they teach you don't cross your body with your arms because you're cutting off your smoothness to run and slice through air. So you are right with the hands, and then you just kind of go up and down like that. So I kind of learned that. It still didn't help me. I was getting like 5th place in indoor. So I just wasn't on that elite level speed like that, but with some traction. So, it is what it is. But it's fun things to talk about. To me, if I'm the school, though,
that's where I was going to go next.
To me, who gives me the better deal? Now, that could affect sometimes big-time 5-star recruits. Jackson, would it? I don't know.
Well, that can affect in 2 ways is what kind of we were talking about is there are some people who will not come to a school if they don't have Nike.
Yeah.
But
that's always true in basketball is kind of where you got aware of like, oh, I'm not coming there if you don't have what? You're not coming here because of the shoes?
that to me kind of blows my mind.
I couldn't believe that.
And there's people that will take less money not to do that, to go to a school with maybe Nike. But Adidas may be funneling money into your NIL account, which allows you the competitive advantage, especially after this passing of the bill where there's no limits or whatever got passed this morning, wherever the House passes does not pertain to University of Tennessee. So they have now the most athlete-friendly NIL system in place at the University of Tennessee. So now if you get Adidas money that pays you more than Nike, how does not entice other athletes to come to your school? Because I think it would be wild to turn down maybe, I don't know how much I'm, $20,000 or $30,000.
But a guy who thinks he's going to the NBA be like, man, I'm wearing Nike, man. I wore Nike. See, the reason why basketball is so different, they wore them in AAU. They've grown up in them. They've had contracts with them before. So it's a history and a pattern of them being with them, and they think they are connected and probably pay for their whole entire travel team over the years. So that's where the relationship starts. I mean, Man, I mean, Jackson, what do you think about like players, especially basketball? But man, what about funneling NIL? I mean, man, the football, man, I think that's that's a good
I mean, that's
point.
my thing. Like, if you're a fan, you obviously hate, you kind of talked about how the Adidas design and quality was not great for fans. But are you willing to go back to that if that means you can attract better athletes because you have more money?
But
Yeah,
maybe not the elite.
if Adidas gets Tennessee, I believe they would be the premier college football program of Adidas.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Nike doesn't prioritize Tennessee, but Tennessee's not going to be the number one program for Nike. Oh, that's going to be Oregon. That's going to be Georgia, Ohio State. Other schools are going to be up there with Tennessee. I think the better deal will probably be with Adidas. How close Nike can come, I think, is ultimately what's going to decide this deal.
Because
Who's Texas with, by the way? Do you know?
Texas is with Nike.
And see, that's the thing is like, I mean, Nike's not going to be able to show favoritism to anybody. And kind of how we talked about this morning is like, they're Nike, right? You come to them, they don't come to you. And so why would they? And they do have I read this morning, a 15-day window to match whatever offer Adidas has. But I mean, if they don't match it, then they kind of just move on with their lives and probably doesn't really affect their bottom line at all. Whereas Adidas, you get more money and you become the premier team. Whereas with Nike, you may likely never be the premier team. It's a lot more
It's not more
when I
complex
was
than you
told
think.
this story yesterday, I was like, who gives a crap about Adidas versus Nike? But then you think about all the new layers because of NIL, and I'm like, oh, this is a lot more interesting than I thought it was.
I have a theory. You guys knock it down. Not necessarily what we're talking about, but it is about a brand. Why Michael Jordan's coming back to the broadcast booth, because some of the new generation players never saw him play and don't really know him, and maybe he's losing some sales on the Jordan. I guarantee you he's making money, a boatload of money, but if he had a little more presence in the day, then guess what? They then go buy more.
Okay, we're going to have Jordan DeJaney. Okay, we're going to table this because I want to talk about this Jordan's coming back stuff, because I think a lot of people think one way of how he's going to act on TV, and I'm just not sure if that's going to be the case. But we're going to have Jordan DeJaney. We're going to go around the NFL with him. We got a loaded show today. We got all kinds of topics I will want to talk about, fun stuff, so stay tuned. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
Guys, if something's holding you back from performing at your best, it's time to do something about it with Performance Enhancement Treatment Packages from Edge Peptide. So whether you're in the gym or on the course with Edge Peptide, hormone therapy, you can show up stronger, feel better, recover faster, and stay in the game longer. And you know what I'm talking about. So you can boost your energy, build lean muscle mass, and heal from those nagging injuries. As an athlete myself, I know how those injuries can affect your game. So if you're struggling with your joint pain, suffering from a recent injury, or looking to recover faster after surgery, Edge has you covered. From peptide packages to PRP, stem cells, and high film muscle stimulation, Edge is your exclusive Nashville area peptide specialist. So don't wait till summer to feel your best, and don't trust your health to some online pharmacy. And remember, at Edge, your consultation fee for $250 is waived with your initial order. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. And it's time to go around the NFL with Jordan DeJaney. And Jordan, how are you doing? Are you fully recovered from the schedule release?
Yes, I am fully recovered. What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on the show. Sorry to interrupt what was a great conversation between Adidas and Nike brands with the University of Tennessee, but I'm excited to go around the NFL with you guys on this fine Friday.
Who would have thought that jerseys would be such a thought-provoking conversation about NIL and all this kind of stuff? I mean, you would never imagine.
Yeah, and I got to give a shout out to my best friend, Cody McClure, big J journalist at Fox Sports Knoxville, actually broke this story. He was the first one to report it, and according to him, it seems like Tennessee Athletics moving its apparel rights from Nike to Adidas is quote-unquote high.
That's crazy. So let me ask you this. The Tennessee Titans, because we were talking about schedule release, have 0 primetime games. And do you buy the Mike North, who's in charge of scheduling the games and all that kind of stuff with the NFL? Do you buy that's just because they lost all those games last year, or is there more to it than just that?
Yeah, 0 primetime games. That actually surprised me. You guys asked me how many I thought Tennessee would get when I was on with you last week. And I actually said 2 because I think most people thought, Tennessee would be given a Thursday night game somewhere, but they also drafted the number 1 overall pick. I thought maybe there was a possibility of getting 2, but they end up with 0. I don't know if I necessarily buy that explanation. I understand the Titans are not the biggest brand in the NFL. But last year, the Bears were scheduled for 3 primetime games with number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams, and that was obviously not a good team. Even the Commanders, who I don't think is a major brand in the NFL, were scheduled for 2 primetime games with number 2 overall pick Jaden Daniels, and I think they ended up playing in 3 because of a flex in the late season. But the Titans, the Saints, and the Browns, I believe, are the 3 teams the NFL does not want the casual fans to see this upcoming season.
When you're talking about the casual fans, you have international fans now, and the Vikings make NFL history with back-to-back international games in both Dublin, then in London. Talk about the challenges that presents for the Vikings, and, are you in favor of back-to-back games going forward?
No, I think it's absolutely insane. I think that if you told NFL players this a few years ago, they would absolutely go crazy because it used to be the fact where teams that would play overseas would get an automatic bye week as they recovered from their jet lag. But then the NFL started moving away from that, where not every single team that played overseas got a bye week. Then we had the Jaguars, who had a residency basically in London. I think it was last season, playing back-to-back games. But now we have the Vikings playing back-to-back international games in 2 different countries, which I think is absolutely wild. So, I mean, they're obviously going to stay over there. They're going to have the opportunity to do a lot of fun stuff, but what comes with that is also distraction and a turning over of schedules as well. Players obviously like consistency with their routine, and you're not going to have that if you're moving from 3 different countries in 3 different weeks. So I'm really interested to see and hear what the Vikings players have to say about this, but I wouldn't believe that they would be happy with this scheduling.
Because you have to stay over there the whole time. I mean, obviously, but then you're so far out of your own routine. It feels like a competitive advantage for at least the second team that you play, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and think about all the things that come with, staying overseas with an NFL team, not only with the scheduling, but the dietary things, the clothes you have to bring, the equipment. There's so many different things you have to plan with, and also transporting that from 2 different countries overseas as well.
Why did they choose the Vikings of all the teams to do this with a technically a rookie quarterback, I guess you could say, a guy that's never played a regular season game? But why the Vikings? Is it because of their name, the Vikings? Because, they can go overseas and go from country to country? Because it's such a random team to choose.
Wow, you stole my answer. That was going to be it, the team name. That's the only thing I can think of with the Vikings, being navigators across the open waters. That's the only thing I can think of when it comes to the Vikings, because I think you make a good point. They went 14-3 last year in the regular season, but they lost their quarterback in free agency. They're starting a guy who's going to basically be a rookie, and we don't exactly know what his ceiling is. I mean, when you talk about the Vikings as a team, they had a great year last year, but when you replace quarterbacks and with a guy who has no experience experience in the regular season, it's kind of tough to believe that he's someone who's going to meet the standards of what Minnesota set for themselves last year.
We're going around the NFL with Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports.
Well, Jordan, let's start off with something fun. Olympic flag football participation by NFL players in, I think, 2028. What are your thoughts on this? You think the NFL is going to let this happen? It seems like it.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I mean, this is a massive story, and let me explain why. It's not just because we could see Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes reuniting in the Olympic Games of all places, but it's because the NFL believes it could benefit the league itself. Like, the league has been very supportive of flag football, but on top of that, it appears the NFL believes its players playing in the Olympic Games would add to the global outreach of the NFL itself. And that's not something I had previously considered. And if you follow the NFL at all, global outreach has become a pillar of what they want to accomplish. But the resolution that is going to be discussed this upcoming week that was put out by NFL media on social media covered many of the bases that we were kind of curious about right off the bat. The number of players they would send to the Olympics potentially, injury protection for anyone who would go down. And they also talked about field surfaces for the Olympics as well. Like, there's going to be non-negotiables when it comes to a potential resolution being passed. Now, I always thought that this would not happen because players don't want to be injured while doing non-NFL things. Now, you've watched the Pro Bowl, right? They moved to the flag football format, and no one wants to watch that. It's been absolutely abysmal. But when it comes to the Olympics, obviously, when you're playing for high stakes and playing for your country, that adds an entirely different element. So I will say it's no guarantee that this will happen, but it does seem more possible than I previously thought.
No doubt about it. When we're Jordan Jazani of NFL, NFL writer for CBS Sports. I guess the vote is in on, or at least they're going to sit down for the NFL for postseason reseeding. What are your, thoughts on the reseeding? Because I thought that they should do this all the time. I mean, I don't understand why it hasn't been done.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm way more in the middle. I go back and forth on this all the time because on one hand, you shouldn't have a team that wins 13 or 14 games, whatever, in a really good division playing on the road in the postseason. But also you have winning the division in the NFL should mean something. It shouldn't just be, hey, we won the division. I think that you should get home field advantage, even if you're a team that win 9-8 in the regular season. So I think the vote's going to be really interesting because what the NFL is trying to accomplish is increasing some of that late year competitiveness and excitement, because if you're a team maybe like Buffalo who is locked up your division for a long time, but your chances at the number one overall seed in the AFC are slim, you're more likely to rest your starters in the regular season finale. But all of a sudden, if you restructure the playoff format, you could lose that game and potentially move down a playoff seed because it's going strictly based off record. I think that's why the NFL is potentially eyeing this change. Now, what's going to be really interesting to see if it gets passed or not.
Brought this up, adopt a draft lottery, and he was joking, but he definitely didn't agree with that.
Oh man, I don't want to see it done. Like, I understand the points being done, or the points that were being made by supporters in terms of against tanking for the number one overall pick, but I feel like tanking still happens in the NBA, right? You're trying to get as many of those lotto balls possible so you have the best chances at the number one overall pick. But I mean, I think CBS Sports actually did an article on it this week. Like, what if what happened in the NBA lottery happened if in a prospective or potential NFL lottery? Like, the San Francisco 49ers would have the number one overall pick in the class. Who would want to see that? I think the Panthers, who had the number 8 overall pick, would be number 2. The Jaguars, who had the number 2 pick, would be number 3. So I think that I'm not in favor of it, to be honest, at all. But here's the thing. The NFL, I feel like they're really open to change, and they're trying to revolutionize the product, whether it be different ideas, playoff structures. And I wonder, they look at the opportunities when it comes to it being a TV event and all the attention that it would bring as something that would be beneficial. But me personally, I hope it's something that doesn't come to fruition.
On week 1, September 7th, Sunday Night Football is the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. That may be one of the best Sunday night matchups that I've seen in a long time, where it's just, that is a captivating game. Is that the best primetime game slate already in week one? Like, is that the best game of primetime in your opinion?
Yeah, with the Bills at Ravens, I mean, it's kind of become one of the best rivalries in the NFL. They faced off twice last season, including in that infamous divisional round matchup where Mark Andrews dropped that pass that would have been the game-tying two-point conversion. Brutal loss for Baltimore. But, I mean, it was interesting because the Ravens kind of shellacked the Bills in the regular season. But I think it's definitely one of the best rivalries we have in today's NFL. But if you're asking me about other potential Sunday night games, I actually sat down and ranked every single one of these matchups, 1 through 17 for CBS Sports. And I think there are a couple of other interesting Sunday night games. I mean, number one for me is going to be the Lions at Eagles coming in week 11. This is a matchup of, the two best teams in the NFC that we haven't seen in quite some time. The last time the Lions and Eagles faced off, Sam Laporta and Jamison Williams weren't on roster. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery weren't on roster. So this is going to be the first iteration of the two best teams in the NFC in week 11, which I'm excited for. The other matchup that I have to bring up is week 8, Sunday Night Football, the Green Bay Packers at the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're all anticipating that Aaron Rodgers is going to sign with Pittsburgh. So imagine if he gets to host his former team, the Green Bay Packers, at the midpoint of the regular season.
The Colts had a little video schedule release that kind of was met with a lot of controversy. Apparently, there was licensing issues. There was, of course, the Tyreek Hill joke, which he actually didn't really think was a big deal. But talk about the licensing issue part of it. Like, what did they violate and what went down with that?
Yeah, I thought it was really funny that we were trying to debate why did the Colts delete their schedule release video? Was it because of the Tyreek Hill joke? Was it because of a licensing issue? And then Indianapolis comes out and says, actually, it was both. There are multiple reasons why we had to delete this project we put so many hours into. Now, when it comes to the licensing agreement, I'm certainly not an expert, but I thought it was interesting that the Chargers are another team that did a Minecraft-themed schedule release video. And at the beginning of the video, they put out a statement saying that they had permission from Microsoft and the game to really put this project together. We didn't see a statement like that from the Colts. But the Colts also talked about how their schedule release video exceeded our rights with Microsoft. So I don't know what that means. It's potentially maybe they didn't get the required permission, but also on top of that, maybe there was something included in the video that Microsoft didn't previously allow.
When if Shedeur Sanders ends up getting the job at some point during the regular season for the Cleveland Browns and is starting a game, does that make, if it comes before the Tennessee Titans face the Cleveland Browns, does that make that a flex-worthy game, in your opinion?
That's a great question. I do not think it will be. No, it matters on the opponent. It matters on whatever hype that Shedeur Sanders has been able to garner behind the scenes. That all will play into the NFL considering a flex. But at face value, I don't think that it would make it an immediate flex in primetime, Shedeur Sanders' first start under the lights. I don't think that's something that would happen at face value. But I will say, if Shedeur Sanders was drafted – in the first round by the Cleveland Browns, I think that the Browns would have a lot more primetime games. I think if the Titans drafted Shedeur Sanders at number 1 overall, they would have probably 2 primetime games as well.
That's what was going to be my next question is if Shedeur Sanders went 101 to the Tennessee Titans, how many primetime games they would have? Because Blaine asked that same question to me, and I'm like, yeah, I think they would have 2 or 3 at this point. I think it would be because he's such a more compelling character. Not that it matters to Cam Ward, but they're obsessed with Shedeur Sanders at ESPN. It would be very hard for me to figure out that they would not have a primetime game if he was drafted that high. Speaking of, are you team Mario Cristobal or team Mel Kiper in their little debate?
Yeah, you have to get me up to speed on this. Is it that Mel Kiper didn't talk to Shedeur Sanders? But Mel Kiper doesn't talk one-on-one with a lot of prospects, right?
Right. He didn't talk to Cam Ward, and Mario Cristobal said that that's why he was all talking all about Shedeur Sanders all weekend.
I will say, if you're Mel Kiper, like if I was Mel Kiper, for example, I think you should put an emphasis on at least having a phone call with some of the top prospects in the draft when doing your research. It's not all just film. If you're going to be one of the biggest talking heads of not just ESPN, but the draft itself, and I'm not trying to take shots, but I think that would put you in position to have those conversations and more of a behind-the-scenes look at the prospects themselves.
What makes going, I guess, look at it this way. What would the Tennessee Titans have to accomplish to start earning maybe a primetime game this season? Because obviously you still got the Patriots game, and you could be flexed starting week 5 for certain primetime games. What would they have to show, and how quick would they have to show it for them to get a primetime game?
Yeah, I want to make this very clear. The Titans are still in play for a potential primetime game. Like, it's not set in stone just right now. As you mentioned, the NFL has a bunch of different flex options for their primetime games, whether it be Thursday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. So a potential primetime game is still in the cards for Tennessee. But to answer your question, I think just cut and simple, it's Cam Ward being a star. Cam Ward really taking over and showing that he can be a franchise quarterback right off the bat. I'm not saying he has to necessarily be Jaden Daniels, but something approaching that territory would really garner attention not only in Nashville, but around the league in general. And when that happens with the NFL, that's when they become more likely to flex out games into primetime. So I know that Cam Ward is not the most braggadocious person that wants all the attention on himself. He's made that very clear. It's one of the things I really like about him. But if he lets his play do the talking and it talks loud, the NFL will definitely consider flexing a game for Tennessee, in my opinion.
Looking at the Titans' schedule, they have the 8th easiest strength of schedule when you look at the Vegas win totals for their opponents. They're currently at 5.5 wins right now. Are you taking the over on that, knowing how the schedule is laid out, or are you feeling pretty good about the under on that?
So I should have double-checked this, but I think there's actually been just a little bit of steam on the over when it comes to the betting line for the Tennessee Titans at 5.5. If you're asking me for my prediction, I think I'm leaning over as well, with wins over the Colts in Week 3, Raiders Week 6, Seahawks Week 12, Jaguars Week 13, Browns Week 14, and Saints Week 17. There's one thing I want to bring up to you guys about the schedule. I think it's the most important thing when it comes to Tennessee's schedule. The Titans won't have to leave Nashville during the month of November, since they'll be playing 4 straight home games from weeks 9 through weeks 13. Plus, they have a bye sandwich in the middle of that stretch as well. So they'll go 5 weeks without leaving the state of Tennessee. And this will mark just the 8th time over the past 34 years that a team has been given 4 straight home games. And 6 of the 7 previous teams to play 4 straight home games went either 4-0 or 3-1 during that homestand. So that's an opportunity for Cam Ward to really find his footing in the league, to show the NFL what he's possible of, and also potentially grab the attention of NFL decision makers when it comes to that prospective flex primetime game.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're on with Jordan DeJaney, NFL writer for CBS Sports. I had a mic issue, but I don't know if you guys talked about this, but Caleb Williams, what about that story with Caleb Williams and not wanting to play in Chicago? Is that something that's coming out here in the second year with a new coaching staff?
Yeah, that's pretty wild, right? A prospective franchise quarterback for a team that selected him number 1 overall, considered some unorthodox tactics so that the franchise that selected him number 1 could not draft him. And by the way, here's the other interesting part. Caleb Williams also fell in love with a Bears rival, Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings. So apparently he was consulting with lawyers to figure out a way around the CBA while considering other options like signing with the United Football League. And I'll pat myself on the back here for one thing. Blaine will remember this. If I've ever been too negative and maybe over the top towards a sports figure, it was Shane Waldron and probably Matt Eberflus too. And I said the Bears would be worse than people were anticipating last season because of those 2 leaders. And sure enough, they didn't coach their quarterback. They didn't teach their quarterback how to watch film, and struggled all around, and obviously were fired. I think that maybe the most overlooked part of the story is that, and we're not talking about this, is that Caleb Williams in that article eventually landed on hey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn around the Bears. I'm going to be that quarterback that they've been searching for so long. So one of the interesting things to keep track of is how is this story received with Bears fans? Because on one hand, they look at this and say Caleb Williams likes the Vikings more than us and didn't even want to go to the Chicago Bears. But on the other hand, every Bears fan would agree that they hated Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron. So they were in agreement with Caleb Williams on that as well. It's going to be interesting to see where Chicago fans land on this, but it was definitely a bombshell dropped on Thursday afternoon.
Derek Carr is retiring, so this a potential spot for Will Levis, even though it may not look like it, even though they have young quarterbacks?
Yeah, I'm going to say no to that, actually.
Yeah.
I think that they really like Tyler Shuck, and I don't know if I'm going to say he's the favorite to win this job. He's certainly one of the favorites. I think Spencer Rattler has some pop. He kind of intrigues me. Not too interested in Jake Haener, to be honest with you, as photogenic as he is. But I'm looking at Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler to really kind of battle it out to be QB1 down in New Orleans.
Lastly, if going into the New England game, Vrabel, and the Titans have a losing record, 2-4, let's say. I think it's week 7 or 8. Will Brian Callahan's job be on the line if he lost?
Oh, man, that's a great question because with Miss Amy.
Or is that too early in the season?
I still think it's a good question because we know what happened with Miss Amy and John Robinson when A.J. Brown took his towel out and whipped our behinds in Philadelphia. That led to a significant move. But as you mentioned, this happens in week 7. So I'm going to lean towards no. I have the Patriots winning that game, but I don't think that it will be a blowout by any means. I think that both teams will be extremely motivated. I think it's something that certainly would hurt Miss Amy's feelings, but in terms of having Brian Callahan not coaching that next week at Indianapolis, I'm going to say that's far-fetched.
Awesome. Well, that was going around the NFL with Jordan DeJaney of CBS Sports. Jordan, we greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. You guys are the best.
See ya. When we come back, I have to talk to Blaine about the playoff thing that he talked about because I disagree. I like the playoffs as is, but I'm willing to hear him out. I want to hear him out on that one because I'm actually surprised that is the take that you're taking. So this is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045. You want to get in on the conversation. And coming up at the next owners meeting, not only are they going to decide about the Olympics and flag football in 2028, they're also going to be tackling Detroit's proposal for a new playoff system, to reconfigure the playoff system. Now, the current system, just in case you do not know, is the 4 division winners are your 4 top seeds. They go the 4 division winners ranked 1 through 4 by record. Then it is the 3 wild card teams after that, ranked by record. What they're proposing would be that the 4 division champions and 3 wild card teams in each conference to make the playoffs, those 7 teams would then be seeded strictly by record, rather than assigning the top seeds to the division winners, which is how it's been done since the merger.
I do like that part.
With the wild cards to follow. If the teams have the same record, being a division champion would be the first tiebreaker, not head-to-head record, regardless of head-to-head record. So you are for that.
Yeah, I'm for the division.
I'm not necessarily
I'm talking about more the
against it.
wild card
Yeah.
when they then a team with a losing record has home field advantage in like the second round.
Yeah.
And the other team, and they may have a better records, but they were in a weaker division. So then you go by record to me at that point, and they don't. And to me, they should reseed at that point in the second round of who should get home field advantage. I just like it. I think it'll bring a whole nother dynamic. I think it'll bring more excitement and more eyeballs. As always, the NFL is the king of the hill with bringing eyeballs and attention. And so I think it's new excitement. I get it because I'm old school too. I thought about this I think I've said this over the last 3 years because I felt like some teams have gotten shortchanged in this process. So it's interesting now that they're voting for it. It may not get passed this year, but it shows you that they are actually thinking about it. And I think some coaches have complained. Did it happen to Detroit since they are the ones who initiated this?
No, wasn't it? Didn't Detroit win the
Right, they went to
championship
the-
last year?
they did.
Minnesota was
so
the
they're
other
the
one.
ones who kind of
Jackson?
So they played the Commanders after they got a first round bye. So why they're proposing this reseeding is the Rams were a 10-7 team last year, but because they were a division winner, they went and played the Eagles, who were the 2 seed who won in the wild card
that's
round,
exactly what I'm
and
talking
the
about.
Commanders, who came in second to the Eagles in that division, who were a 12-5 football team, went and played in Detroit against the Lions and beat the Lions.
Yeah, because they are calling for also the other part of the proposal is the reseeding after the first round. So they're going to reseed
I
again.
agree with that part. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very interesting that this may happen. There's a good chance from the way everybody's acting about it, all the insiders and stuff, there's a
Really?
good chance that this may happen.
Oh.
Now, I don't know if it will happen and take effect this year, maybe next year. But I also think this is something that college football should be considering, right? The reseeding, because
And that's what started me
playoffs-
on this tangent about
Yeah.
5 years ago was that.
Yeah, because the college football playoffs this past year, I felt like needed a reseeding after the first round, and you would have gotten different matchups and maybe better matchups and better television. It just didn't seem like it really worked out. And maybe you guys are right. And listen, I'm amenable to the idea.
What do you think,
because-
Jackson? Do you like it or no?
I like the reseeding. I think if you win your division, you should get one home playoff game.
Yes.
So would you just reseed then? So would you guys be in favor then? It sounds like the old first round playoff format, and then just this new second round. Maybe
Yes,
that's the
me.
compromise that will happen.
That's me. Yeah, you,
Yeah,
Jackson?
I'm with
Yeah,
Blaine.
that's exactly what I want to happen.
Because the way this would work is like Minnesota and Detroit. I think they both finished 14-3 or something like that. They would way this is worded. Both of them would get home field advantage in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
But really, what I think we're all wanting is that division winners, you can have your home playoff game in the first round. But if you're a 9-7 winner, you need to be reseeded and moved around appropriately.
That's me anyway.
Yes, and that's where the Lions are coming from. There, I mean, the Commanders were too good of a team to go play the 1 seed in the second round.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, because the Eagles had the Rams, but also just beat the team in front of you. And I don't think anybody's trying to say that, but that's kind of how Detroit's their reasoning
Their
behind
macho,
it. That's
right.
kind of how it sounds to
Right.
me. It's just
It
like,
could be coming from a bad angle, no doubt about it.
Which is that's why the tush push is trying to get banned, right? It's because people are tired of getting their butts kicked in on the tush push and losing games because of that. It's all about there's selfish motives in everything that is proposed, at this NFL level.
I forgot. Did they ban tush push?
They tabled it.
Oh,
So it was gaining momentum, but they tabled it coming. And maybe I haven't really seen anybody say that it's coming up in this owners meeting, but we'll see. But I do kind of like the reseeding because I did think the college football playoffs needed. Didn't you, Jackson? Isn't that what we all talked about? Is that we needed some reseeding of the college football playoffs after the first
so
round?
we talked you out of it?
You may have talked me out. I'm amenable. Amenable.
I think the college football playoffs also need reseeding. I think
Yeah.
reseeding in general in sports just needs to start happening more in the playoffs.
I agree. I do agree with that. Second round. My big hang up is maybe the first round.
Oh.
Because I think you did win your division. You
Right.
should probably get
Be
at least
rewarded.
one home playoff game. But I do understand that, okay, after that, let's reseed. I bet that's the
That's what I'm
compromise they come to. Because that's not the proposal necessarily. The proposal is to redo the entire rounds.
See, so
But I bet the compromise is going to be, okay, let's just keep the first round as it is. Second round, let's reseed. I would be on board with that. And reseed.
I hope they don't mess this up.
Oh, well,
If not, just leave it alone. I mean,
Yeah.
they're gonna-
that to me has kind of been the MO, I guess, is kind of like you hope they don't mess it up, but you're also kind of like, oh man, what we got now is kind of good. It's kind of like the people that want to do the NFL draft lottery. I'm just not on board with the NFL draft lottery, right?
Me either.
But and I think this is kind of way different, to be honest with you, because I do think that the NFL draft lottery creates way more issues than this. This almost balances everything out. The NFL draft lottery does not. It just hurts the teams that are not very good in the NFL because it's going to be harder for them to get good again.
Only reason why you would even consider doing the draft lottery for the NFL. Oh, it's a big deal. It's new.
Yeah.
People may want to watch it one time.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Then everybody's going to be complaining except for
Right.
the person that was like, "Oh, our team was had the 10th worst record." So not that bad. Oh, now they get the first overall. But that team's fan base is going to be very happy, but everybody else is going to complain. When we come back, I want to bring up another point about the jerseys in NIL that I did not even think about until someone in the chat put it in there in the F&M Bank chat. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Two Rivers Ford announces employee pricing for everyone. Every tradesman, every dad, every rising star. You pay what we pay. Two Rivers Ford. Locally owned. American made.
It is 1:59. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Vols baseball team started their final SEC regular season series strong with a 10-7 win in Game 1 against Arkansas. Game 2 is tonight. Liam Doyle is on the mound for the Vols, and you can catch that game right here on The Zone starting at 6:15. The NBA playoffs continue as last night the Denver Nuggets escaped elimination with a 117-109 win over the Thunder. That series heads to Game 7 in Oklahoma City. Tip-off is Sunday at 2:30. In the Eastern Conference, Game 6 between the Celtics and the Knicks is tonight. Tip-off at 7 p.m. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the number. So the NIL Collective and the NIL, obviously Nike, the Phil Knight is a guy that puts in money for the NIL Collective in Oregon. So think about that. All the Nike jerseys that all these colleges are buying are kind of help funding in a roundabout way the Oregon NIL Collective. If you were a school, would that change your mind at all? Someone brought this up and I didn't even think about it. Would that change your mind?
Do you view it that way?
No. Well, the way these apparel deal works.
I don't think
So the schools are paid by Nike, and part of the compensation in that deal is uniforms, apparel, things
Gotcha.
like that. So I'm not sure how much they're actually buying from Nike, but Oregon will always be the premier Nike program.
Yeah. So is it very important for, I guess, University of Tennessee to be the premier Adidas program? Or is that not a big deal? If you were making the decision, what's going to be weighing on you, Blaine? Is it that players love Nike no matter how much you're getting paid from Nike? Or is it that I get to be, I can tell my players, not only are you getting more money from Adidas, but you are going to be the part of the premier team of Adidas?
Well, if you're the university, I think you look at it from that prism. There's no way around it. This is a business transaction. And then you say, I hope that we can talk some guys that are Nike guys, especially when you're talking about basketball, to come on over with Adidas and show them, their product and brand that they like it. But if they're giving you the better deal and helping you get, more money for players, man, I think that's the route you're going to. Look, Adidas is never going to be Nike. They're just, they're not. It's just the popularity just not going to be there. So do you weigh as, let's just say, an organization, a school, a university, the popularity of one product that what everybody wants are the better business deal for your university? How do you think UT will view it?
I think they'll see it as a business deal, but how much would you guys take any input from the players who will actually be wearing these uniforms?
Ooh, that's tough. I would normally say no. I wouldn't, but I would also, it wouldn't hurt to just gauge temperature to get that perspective, because, I'm sure the people that are making the decisions are probably not in the know culture-wise of athletes and all these athletes across all these different sports and what they like to wear. What is it? Because, I had no clue. I didn't even think about it until they were bringing up cleats. Well, I don't like Adidas cleats because of how they make my feet feel or how they're built or made or whatever. And I would never have thought about that. Yeah. And I would never have known that players have turned down, $95,000 to not have to wear Adidas. So to me, it's like, I kind of feel like you need to, but that shouldn't be a big part of your decision, but you should have that information.
I agree with you. I think they should pass out questionnaires to all the different sports, girls and boys, just to have a gauge.
Yeah.
Just to see where it's at. That doesn't mean that's the decision you're going to make, what you find out.
Right.
But then you will inform them when you make your decision and why.
Because what if a couple of them are like, well, I would probably transfer out of here.
Right.
You're probably, I don't know about
Especially
that.
to the ones bringing all the money
Yeah.
in. I mean, we talk about football, basketball, and even baseball here. Too.
How close are we to an era where maybe apparel deals are done like the pros, where maybe the uniform is Adidas or it's Nike or it's Under Armour, but the players have individual shoe, glove deals like that? How it's done on the pros.
And we may not be that far off, right?
I think you're onto something. Yeah, made a good point. And
Because then that could really free things up, right? If you were the first school, because it really comes down to the school, right? So if Tennessee were to say, okay, we're signing with Adidas, but you can wear Nike gloves and Nike cleats, maybe that is a good compromise, right? Well, and my question would be maybe would Nike be on board, or Adidas or Reebok and all these companies be on board with doing that in college? I know they technically are, I guess, in the NFL, but would that be something they would be interested in? And what about the players that aren't good enough but hate Adidas? Doesn't still work for them?
No, well, that's why they're
I guess
what
you just have to bite the bullet.
You got to work your way to the field, then you can make decisions and have an opportunity to make a decision like that. So yeah, I think that's probably the best way. And guess what? The universities wins both ways. See?
Yeah.
The kid now, can get some money from, a Nike deal, and probably their agent, if they went with Adidas. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of like that format. More and more, we're finding out that college is pro in every facet of a manner. I mean, it's just, there's no way around it. It's just, it is. That's where it's going. And they can't stop it at this point. It's just too much. It's too late.
It's insane. It's wild to think about.
It is crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy. You brought up an interesting point about, we're switching to Tennessee Titans now, but you brought up an interesting point about how early the game for the New England Patriots is scheduled.
Oh, yeah.
And whether that timing benefits Brian Callahan. In your mind, do you think it benefits Brian Callahan? Because, I mean, obviously you could go in there 2-4 or 1-5 and lose, but a loss is a loss to Mike Vrabel at home. So do you think it does benefit him?
Yeah, I do. Let's just say you're 2-4, because that's a possibility. I was looking at that's what made me ask that question. I was looking at the schedule, and it's a possibility it could be like that, or 3-5 or so, and have just a losing record.
Right.
And you say, okay, this judgment is way too early on not only Callahan, but also your assessment of Cam Ward, the quarterback. So, because you got to know he's going to be on a roller coaster ride. He's going to have some good moments. He's going to have some good games, maybe, leading up to that point. But, he's progressing. So if he's progressing, I just say, no, we cannot do something like that. Now, if it's something dramatic and the team as a unit just doesn't look good up to that point, in different facets, whether it's special teams, defense, offense, then it's always a possibility. That's why I asked, when did she let go of JR when they played the Eagles?
That was around Thanksgiving.
It was
that
like
was
week
later.
13 or 14, because
that's why
was
I said
let
it.
go.
I think
I know
it's too early.
DeJaney had said something about the Eagles game, and I'm like, but that was way later in the season.
It was later, yeah. But it was still a surprise, by the way, because they had a winning record, right?
Yes, at the time they were 7-5. So that would have been, so I guess week 12.
That game was December 4th of 2022.
Is December 4th?
Yeah, see, no. I think that's way too soon. When you're talking about building, we haven't even got to assess, like, really what they can do. Some guys may be just hitting their stride as far as, how the NFL works, and they're starting to get it and play well. I think that's way too early. What do you think? You think that's too early? Because some people are going to say it's never too early if you're losing.
Well, that's the
That's
thing.
a take.
I kind of agree with you in that I do think it benefits them, because I'm looking at the schedule, right? I mean, the Colts, the Cardinals, and the Raiders are all technically winnable games in some form or fashion. And we don't really know what the Raiders are going to be, but let's say Colts and Cardinals. Those are your 2 wins. You got an AFC win, you got an NFC win, and you're heading in 2-4 into this game. I don't think it makes it a must win whether you win or lose. I just don't see it. Because you do have the Colts coming up. and then you got the Chargers. Now, if you were to lose this game plus the next two, and then you got the bye week, maybe that's what happens.
At week 10.
At week 10. But I think this being at week 7 is a benefit for Brian Callahan, unless it is 0-6. You're heading into that game, 1-5 heading into that game, because then that becomes a must-win game. But at the end of the day, it is about how they look. Because if we're doing the same thing we're doing last year, where 1 week it's the quarterback, the next week it's the offensive line. Oh, here comes special teams and they're screwing up. Oh, the defense did this and all this stuff. Because then we're seeing the same thing last year. We, throughout this whole season, is all about, even if the win-loss record is not that big of an improvement, is all about, are these games where you're losing 21-24, or are they games where you're losing 14-50? Like, that is a big difference. And how much are these units looking like the units of last year? Because you don't want to have games where your defense is just getting ran all over because they don't know their run fits. You don't, or they know them, they just can't do them. You don't want them to look like where Cam Ward looks like Will Levis in the Chicago Bears game, or you don't want your punter getting killed in special teams.
But don't we give him grace, though, because it is his first year?
I mean,
whether
Cam
that's fair or
Ward,
not.
sure, but not the rest of these units, and not Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan doesn't get grace. Like, right? I mean, in this is the NFL. I just have a hard time right now
Jackson,
buying.
does he get grace?
Probably not.
I mean, I just have a hard time buying this new kumbaya, patience over panic narrative that is being given to us from them when it comes to any NFL owner, not just Amy Adams-Strunk. Any NFL owner can change their mind on a dime. And so, like, to me, it's just like, you can say it's all kumbaya, patience over panic, but if you're even 2-4 and it's a crappy looking 2-4, like the way you played was just complete and utter disorganization, and then you drop it to Mike Vrabel at home, I just don't see a way. I mean, like, I would be just so shocked. Now, this is being a 2-4 that looked like last year's team. If it's a 2-4 and it's competitive and you drop one, and maybe you drop one because of a bad penalty or because of a last-minute 55-yard field goal that some team makes. That's a little bit different than if you are just getting boat raced like you were, from several teams last year.
Well, I hope, Amy and crew up top are evaluating the team a little bit different in that, okay, we, in theory, have the offensive line fixed. How quickly do they look like at least a good average offensive line? How quickly does that happen? Then that means it's all quarterback driven, and the weapons that he has. So then now we've cut that out. Okay, we got that taken care of. And so if the quarterback is up to speed, offensive line, so then now you say, okay, we should be competitive offensively. Now defensively, are we going to be consistent? We can't be 2 weeks in, they ran all down our throat. Then the next week they do the same thing. And then all of a sudden, then the passing game is in flux, pass defense. So you want to see consistency. And it's just hard to do when you have young players.
Right.
So we can say all we want to, and we're going to have patience. But once we start looking at the product, we're no different than her. We're all humans. Mm-hmm. You're going to start sitting there saying, hey, man, this is not what I signed up for if they are looking, 2-5 and 7, and it's just not like really competitive, but for half. Because that happened a lot last year. If for half, you're like, well, dang, what happened?
And then there was no rebound. Like, their second half, and it has been for several years when you look at it all, it's just like, this has not been a second half team, win or lose, right? Because even when they go in with a lead,
that happened in the last season.
That's why I never believed that start to the New York Giants home opener, but like they went that 7-5 season where John Robinson got fired.
Saquon made that long run.
And they beat like the Commanders, they were the Washington football team, but they beat the Raiders and the Giants, and it was like, they had leads and then they let them get back into the game. So even in their wins, they weren't a second half team. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, nah, this team is not as good as what you guys think. Mm-hmm. And I look at this team and I'm like, okay, it's time to break the second half curse. I'd rather, if you're going to start out slow or whatever, I think I would rather have that than just bomb the second half. Like if that means that you start out slow and you build throughout the game and you become competitive throughout the game, as long as you don't get out of hand in the first half. But I'd love for this team just to be a second half team. It's time for it to start showing up in the second half. It just rarely does.
Well, if you're winning, what's more important? How you start or how you finish is always how you finish.
Yeah.
I mean, so at the end of the day, you can overcome all those issues in the beginning if you finish strong. So I would agree with that.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about the offensive line and talk about the defense and more in depth on what is so important about those units heading into 2025. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. We talked yesterday about this schedule and how important it is for Cam Ward, but this offensive line, it is so important for this offensive line to get things going and get things going quickly. There's no 8 weeks gelling or anything like that. They need to get things all settled in the first 4 weeks, which is a tough task when you talk about the defensive line for Denver, the defensive line for the Rams, even the defensive line for the Colts and the Texans. 4 tough tasks to prove that this offensive line is on the right track. And obviously, we know that an offensive line is so important for a young quarterback. But it's so important for Brian Callahan, Blaine, because last year it felt like Brian Callahan was calling plays with 2 hands tied behind his back, no quarterback, consistently playing at a high level, and the offensive line, just a rotation at right tackle. Now, some of that is because of the personnel and their own doing for believing in certain personnel that they shouldn't believe in. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to call deep shots because everybody's like, why aren't they calling deep shots when you don't have any blocking? So where would you rank the offensive line in importance of units for this team?
Well, rank them?
Yeah. I guess
outside of the quarterback, I would say they are number 1.
Yeah.
And actually, for me personally, I think it's the entire team. I wrote down all these different things. I wanted to go down, and I'm just did a bullet points because when you asked this question, when you sent the text, I was like, oh man, the offensive line kind of protects the quarterback.
Yep.
Just simple, opens running lanes. Oops. Yep. Got to do that for the running game. They set the tone and control the trenches, and whoever wins the game in the trenches wins the game. They allow scheme. I think this is what you're referring to.
Yep.
Flexibility. That means, we can run, we can pass, we can do what we want to do, and we'll play action pass. Guess what? Now that opens the window. Now you put the defense in the bind. Now you can do both. And now all of a sudden they're going to have to start, blitzing, run blitz schemes, pass blitz schemes. Then you get them one-on-one. Hey, let's go. We got some dudes, all right? 1 weak link, as we've seen over the last 3 years, can hurt the entire line.
It has usually been 3 weak links, it feels like.
So, and they kind of work in unison together, and it's all about timing. So that's why when we talk about chemistry with the offensive line, they have to have it more than any other group on the field. So, that part, and it's not always going to work every play, but in theory, that's what has to happen, because if not, they can give up sacks. Their pressure rate numbers will be down as far as pass protection, in third down, pass protection, and goal line. So I would say this in summary: the offensive line, if you don't show up, they don't show up mostly in fantasy, right? No fantasy numbers, but guess what? The real deal is though, you never hear their name until they make a mistake. But guess what? They're the reason why you win every single game outside of the quarterback.
We were talking about this today.
That is what this is. I didn't hear you guys. I know you did a great job in the morning, but I didn't hear what they say about it.
Well, they said it's super important, obviously. I mean, Ramon has a little bit of bias, but, obviously.
I'm giving it real talk. The offensive line can, both sides of the ball on the line, control the trenches.
Yeah.
Whoever does that typically wins the game the majority of the time. But as we've seen here with the Titans, man, it's so vitally important. I don't think we can even get, a season off to win games without it.
We were talking last night on Football and Other Efforts, me and Stoney, about the quarterback guru, quarterback whisperer thing. And then it kind of took me to this article that I had found on The Athletic when I wrote about Brian Callahan a couple years ago. And because people think that because he mentions Peyton Manning, that he was Denver's quarterback coach. He was just an offensive assistant. He was just quality control.
That's called quality control.
Yeah, quality control.
That means you're the guy just getting all the film and everything together and handing it up to the which is a great job, by the way.
You can learn a lot, right?
Yeah,
and then he got a job with the guy with Jim Caldwell as quarterback coach in Detroit, where Jim Caldwell was from the Colts. So, there's probably a little Peyton Manning tie and all that kind of stuff. But the reason I bring that up is because when he talks about his time with Peyton, this is what he said. It's one of those things most deeply ingrained in me from my time with Peyton. I spent hours combing through tape for Peyton, just like you just said, Blaine, find all the blitzes, drawing them up, presenting them to him. He always wanted answers, what calls to make to get the blitz blocked, what plays to check to, how to make a team pay for blitzing him. I always want to give Joe as many answers as he needs for what he might encounter. Talking about Joe Burrow. So the reason I bring that up is because he obviously knows how an offense is supposed to work. He obviously wants people to be prepared. But if your players, if you call for a blitz pickup because you recognize something, whether that's the center calling out the protection and making the adjustment, or the quarterback doing it, just in general, I'm speaking in general now. If your offensive line can't do it, the play's dead in the water before you even snap the ball.
So now we're talking about the Jimmies and the Joes.
Yeah. And right now, you hope that the Jimmies and the Joes that they have gotten right now will allow for the X's and O's to flourish. But it really all starts, I know we all say it stops and starts at quarterback, but if you could be the best quarterback in the world, and sometimes that protection is going to get you killed. And this protection right here, right now, is still a big question mark. Looks good on paper. Kevin Zeitler, upgrade. J.C. Latham, right tackle, upgrade over that position over the last few years. Peter Skoronski, year 3. He took great strides last year. Can he continue to improve? He can't just be Peter Skoronski of last year. He needs to take that step. He's a first-round pick. He needs to go up another level. Can Lloyd Cushenberry be healthy? And what is Dan Moore? Can Dan Moore limit the sacks that he has given up over time? Because that's a big question because he's protecting the blind side. So it's up to me, this offensive line, and listen, it's very symbiotic, right? Because the quarterback can help offensive line play. Offensive line can obviously help quarterback play. But this offensive line, like you said, you listed out a lot of things they have to do every play. So it's not just about what they do in the pass game. It's what they do in the run game. Because guess what? A run game is the quarterback's best friend.
Yeah, especially when you're a rookie quarterback. So, yeah, with that being said, I mean, I'm basically putting all the value outside of Cam Ward in so goes the offensive line, so goes the team. And by the way, you just named all the offensive linemen. Those are all proven players at this point in their careers. Sorry, you can say what you want to say. This is year 3 for Skoronski. Yeah. I mean, so other than that, all the other guys are proven in this league. That's number 1 or 2 for Latham. And I think he did a solid job on the left side. Now let's put him on the right. He should be even better.
And he's slimmed down. He's looking very stout.
So, So I just, if they just got to get chemistry on the same page. And once that happens, I believe they can be good. And so can that start at the beginning of the season? Does that happen?
I think it has to because I don't know. For the longest time, Blaine, it's something
I played with some great offensive line team groups, and it took a minute for them to have chemistry all the way through. Now, if you have more veterans, it speeds up. But as far as getting chemistry, and that's what you work through in camp, so you hope that they all work in unison.
And guess who needs to be healthy for all that to happen?
The center. Cushenberry,
he's got to be out there because if he's not out there, then you got Corey Levin. Then you're going to be inserting a new piece when, right? Or is it going to be in preseason? Is it going to be that? That's lost time. And it's just, I don't know. I look at it and I go, we were kind of joking about it is that Stoney is like, I don't know if anybody really wants to talk about the offensive line play. And I'm like, I think they do because now this is a franchise that has traditionally been, when all else fails, at least our offensive line's been good, right? You don't really complain about the offensive line. Going back to the Munchak and all those guys back in the day. And these last few years, it's been so terrible that now the offensive linemen have become the focus. When are we fixing the offensive line? The offensive line is so important. The Eagles have made the offensive line so important. But it's really that the Tennessee Titans over these last 3 or 4 years have made the offensive line so important because they've been so bad at it. And so now it's time for Bill Callahan to maximize the talent that he's got, right? He's got 2 first-round picks there. He's getting Lloyd Cushenberry back. Kevin Zeitler is a proven player. Dan Moore is he's
a starter.
He's a starter.
He's been starting. I'm not looking at his pay, but he is a starter in this league.
They tried to bench him numerous times and replace him over at Pittsburgh, and it's never took.
Really?
So,
Why are you making me nervous?
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Is this a true statement? They tried to bench him?
yeah, well, no, what they've tried to, I guess not bench him, but replace him. They tried to draft a
That's
replacement.
the same thing.
Well, it's the same thing. But, I mean, at the end of the day, most players do try to get replaced by younger players at some point. But they thought it's more
They
of, I guess I
drafted
should
one.
say this,
They
upgrade.
drafted
They've
one.
drafted 2.
Yeah, so they were
So they're
to
looking
move
for
on.
upgrades. You know what I'm saying? And you know,
or-
smart teams do, but
Or we're
still.
not going to sign him and we're going to let him walk.
Yeah, more than likely that too. So at the end of the day, you know, he kept them at bay. All those people. So maybe that says more about them than it does Dan Moore, the people trying to take his job. But you got to give props to a guy that can keep people at bay. Now he's gotten paid, but now it's about delivering on that payment. And again, I just don't know about Lloyd Cushenberry, where he's going to be at in his rehab and his health and all this
First
stuff.
game versus his old team.
I know. But that's a guy. First off, I didn't get to bring this up this morning.
Play. He wants to play.
He wants to play.
You know this.
But I will also say this. Does that provide a little bit of insight for everybody else of like he can give tips on how to prepare to play in Denver? Does that help at all?
I don't know. He could maybe a little, but I just, first game, it's always kind of different with conditioning, but maybe you have to practice in it.
Yeah.
It really, I don't know if there's any tricks of the trade
Okay.
for that, but he may know, he would have the answer.
Get you some high altitude
But
masks.
you
or
don't know what the
something.
team's doing now because naturally Peyton wasn't there when he was there.
Yeah.
But he can give insight on some of the players that were on the team when he was there, like some of their strengths
Yeah.
and weaknesses and what he learned through the time, especially in the trenches.
The what's easier week one? Like who has the easier job, the offensive line or the defensive line? Because I guess the defensive line is just go get the quarterback or go stop the ball. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but like week one, knocking off rust, building chemistry. That seems like that's a lot of pressure on the offensive line week one, where the defensive line feels like you just go get it. Am I oversimplifying it?
Well, I'd be love to hear Ramon and what he thought. I would say,
I wish I would have asked that.
But I do believe it is the defense.
Yeah.
And because you're moving so much, maybe if you ask the defensive line, he may say, well, the offense knows where they're going with the ball, so the guys know where to go. I would say, depending on the style, if you're a catch defense, no. But if you're an attacking, let's hit our gaps and get after the quarterback, I would say defense. It's I would say offensive line is a little harder.
Yeah.
I would say so, especially in today's era of football where, a lot of the offensive linemen aren't getting coached to play in the NFL. They're getting coached to play college, and that's a little bit different with all the pass sets and looking to the sidelines and all that. It's different. The league is just totally different. So, yeah.
When you look at this defensive roster, do you think that this team has at least one impactful leader? I wouldn't say vocal leader, but a leader that impacts the position group. Because we were talking about the teams back in the day where you always had one guy in every position group.
Right.
Do you think that there is that guy in this position group right now for that defense? Because cornerback, you would assume L'Jarius Sneed, but do you think he's that guy?
Well, I don't want to just say the defense. I think you want that in your entire team. So, okay, so I think the offensive line probably has got somewhat of some leaders because we got some veterans there. Got the quarterback who has, everybody talks about all his leadership skills. So is Ridley a leader?
No, but Lockett would be in my estimation.
Okay, Lockett. Okay, is Pollard?
Tight end would be the one that, Pollard is.
Does Pollard even speak?
Well, I don't know if he speaks, but I know he's a leader. Dallas Cowboys talked about his leadership skills. He said he's a quiet leader or
right,
lead by
he leads
example.
by example.
That's why I said impactful leader, not vocal leader, because I didn't want. I know Tony Pollard's a quiet guy.
I think Jeff is a leader with the D line. I think being a leader of the entire defense was a little much for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Barton has some leadership skills at linebacker.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get there. We got Hooker there, and now you got Woods at safety.
So that seems like the twofer right there.
Mm-hmm. And then you got Sneed if he's available. So you got some experienced players. Then you got some young and hungry cornerbacks. So I would say they got somewhat leadership and know what to expect. Have they evolved to the leader and they should be? That may be still a little early yet. Or the veterans who are on the team have been injured and maybe they're not quite there, whether you're talking about Hooker in and out of the lineup or Snead in and out of the lineup. So that sometimes can bring a little bit of issue if you're not established in this league.
Is L'Jarius Sneed the most important player on this defense heading into 2025?
I would say he's going to be the most important one to be watching, because if he can just lock down and stay healthy and lock that side down, man, that'd make so many things easier, especially with no pass rush. Because then you can help the other corners, and then you can really pin yours back and just use four guys to get after the quarterback, or 5 guys, and then now, you're in play, because it matters. I mean, he is an elite player until, the knee issue last season. He was not that last year, as everybody knows. So that's why I was interested to see if you saw him at practice, because if him just out there and he's running around and doing tug of war and all that, well, I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen him do tug of war. I've only seen him do Rochambeau, so rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, I thought you said tug of.
No, I just know he was out in the background of the tug of war video, not like that he was in the tug of war. That he was doing tug of war. I'm sorry.
I heard tug of war. I was like, oh, he was?
No, I don't think they were going to put any small guys trying to do tug of war. They had all the beefy guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he could have been in the back.
He could have been.
Dang, Jackson would be good at that.
But he was out there doing rock, paper, scissors. I don't know if that helps you.
That not getting me excited. Me and you and Jackson doing rock, paper, scissors right now, and we're not helping the team win at all right now.
I don't know. Right. If they listen to our radio show, we may actually be able to help the team. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, no, man, about that, man. I thought you meant more on action out there, but I know I can't help
I don't know what he's doing actually on the field during drills or anything like that.
Oh, man.
In fact, I don't even remember anybody talking about that in the media session. Him being out there doing stuff, and maybe they just either were told not to mention anything, or maybe he was on the secret. There's that. I don't know if the Callahan still has it, but the medical field or the second field or whatever that you're not allowed to talk about.
Kind of conditioning and try to see where you at.
And maybe that's where he was, and nobody was allowed to talk about it. But
yeah, they did sign another corner that naturally I do not know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah,
but
we're going to have Jackson knows. He knows.
He's our expert on that.
He is. He's our pronunciation expert. Is Amani Oriari.
Yeah, you got to know your limitations there for me.
Yeah, that one got me. Brent had me try to do it when that day they signed. He tried to get me to do it before he went on 3HL, and I was like, okay, you're on your own. I did it once, and I'm like, hey, it's not our show.
Oh,
it's
man.
pronounced.
We should do a show of just pronouncing names.
and a spelling bee.
Oh, my.
What you got?
It's pronounced Amani Oruwariye.
It's just always sounds like it just always sounds like Scooby-Doo when you get to that second one. All these linebackers and cornerbacks being kind of brought in. There's been a slew of linebackers being brought in. Do you find that interesting? Do you find that as an indictment of the linebackers they have? Or do you find that as maybe we're just trying to search for the best special teamer?
Oh, man, I really don't. If you want to take blame back to competitive blame, I'd be like, what the heck are they doing? Am I doing something wrong?
Yeah,
linebacker, if I'm a linebacker, I'm like, somebody gonna get lit today at practice. What are they doing? So you got to take it, with a grain of salt. They're signing them for a reason. So obviously they don't like something about your group, and it's not just special team. I think we're in a place now where just signing a guy, maybe if it's one guy, if he's super special at special teams.
Yeah.
But now we're at a point where you got to be a good special teamer, but you can also be able to play on defense or offense or whatever position it is, receiver, gunner, jammer, all of that. So, I would take it personal. I would think that they're not liking what they see. And I'm actually disappointed myself. Like, man. So we have James Williams, in theory, and Otis Reese as backups with Gray, I'm assuming, going to be the starter with Barton. So
they got, just real quick.
What was the guy from Vanderbilt?
They got Cody Barton, Cedric Gray. Oh, my gosh, stupid-ass ads.
Or Ouija?
Cody Barton, Cedric Gray, David Benda from Texas UDFA.
Oh.
Otis Reese, James Williams, Curtis Jacobs, Anthony Orgy.
Orgy.
And then they also brought in another
That's
one,
Vandy right there.
Amani Burnley. They also brought him in. There's another guy named Amani Burnley they brought in. So they brought
Amari
in
Burnley.
I've heard it
Amari
pronounced
Burney.
Amari Burney. There's no
Yes.
L in there anywhere.
No L in there.
Yeah, I totally made that up. Amari Burney is in there. So they brought in 2 free agents off that as well. Yeah. So they have by 8 linebackers on the roster.
Yeah, you could take it as James Williams not coming along fast enough. They want to move on or push Reese there. He got injured, but man, I really like his skill set. And maybe he's not, heavy enough for them, but so yeah, that is an interesting play there. And it could be just special teams because naturally you're going to be a backup. But man, if you're a linebacker in National Football, if you're not a special team player because you're not starting, something wrong, man. You're not going to be on the roster.
We're going to talk about watching film and rookies when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee for your European car repair needs now for 26 years. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. So pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of his backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myeurofix.com. That's myeurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said y'all.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. Last call for phone calls. And Blaine, we're talking about the importance of players watching film. And you preached about it many times and talked about your own experience, your own method. And obviously, you would think, I think most fans would think that every player, once they're in the NFL, knows that they should watch film and how to watch film and what to watch as well, because there's a difference between just turning on the all 22 and taking a few notes. What are you actually retaining and watching in that film actually matters too. And it came out yesterday. Seth Wickersham is writing a book. You brought it up with Jordan DeJaney, and it reminded me that we haven't actually talked about, but Caleb Williams not having any help of how to watch film. And so my question to start off real quick is twofold.
That's kind of unbelievable.
Isn't it not weird that USC didn't help with this? And two, when he was at, Lincoln Riley over there at USC has not kind of instilled in him how to watch film, what to watch for, and everything at their years in college together. But also, isn't that just complete malpractice by the Chicago Bears to do this to their rookie quarterback?
Well, that's the only thing I could really speak on is, the league is different. So, I'm pretty sure, I know someone that was on their staff there at USC when he was there said he was the hardest worker and would get there at 5 a.m. to watch film. So I don't think that was the case. But now what you're dealing with when you get into the league, now that's a totally different level of film study and responsibility that is put on you at the quarterback position. So now you not only have to know what you have to do, you have to know protections, you got to anticipate what you're really supposed to be looking at in the pro game. The pro game is different than college. So, I feel like he probably got all the coaching he needed there in college. You don't do that to have the success that he had. So I just think people think it's the same when you get in pro. No, it's totally different scheme. Some of the stuff, I don't even know what they're doing in college. I'm like, man, why did they do that? We're talking about successful programs, so... and I know coaches on staff, and I talk to them all the time, and some are advisors, some are actually coaches. And they say, man, they got a lot of younger new staff who have a lot of clout and not really ready to be coordinators on both sides of the ball, and they just call plays. And it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to assume that they know what they're doing. So that's kind of my perspective from a college. But then when you get to pro, that's really insulting and really shocking to hear that. From that they didn't even coach him up at all, and that he was really trying to not go to the Bears. That whole thing conversation, I was actually miffed by it. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what?
If you're a Bears fan now, hearing that, how do you feel about Caleb Williams?
Well, if he plays bad, they may say, well, he didn't want to be here anyway. Some fans just going to be that way.
Yeah.
If he does well with the new coaching staff, they're going to be pumped up and excited. So
just all about winning at this point.
I just don't know if I would have spoken on that at this point. Now that those guys are gone, I might have let that pass.
I felt that was really I guess it's his dad that's speaking on it.
Well, I would have,
which is very weird that his dad put his son in this position.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
Okay, if you want to talk about the preparation, sure, but why are you letting loose that you guys didn't even want to go to the Bears? You don't even need that information out there.
Not anytime, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm with you. I found that very weird. But this whole film thing
can open a can of worms if he's horrible this year.
Yeah.
Or they could boo-bird him, but him up out of there, man. The Bears fan, they expect greatness at this point. They're tired of losing.
Yeah. NFL's Quarterback's Guide to Film. This came from Chase Daniel. I want to get your thoughts on this, being that you're a big film guy and everything. I want to get your thoughts. On Monday, this is what he suggests for quarterbacks. And you could probably change some of the stuff out to fit defensive backs or defense. But Monday, watch Sunday film, peek at the advanced scouting report for the next opponent. On Tuesdays, technically an off day, the quarterbacks come in from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. and watch 4 complete games. Wednesday, in the morning, you do a first and second down blitz film watch. In the afternoon, a third down blitz watch. Then you do another third down blitz watch on Thursday morning. Red zone.
Friday.
on that afternoon. Friday, 2-minute drills and 2 more games. And then Saturday, just your last-minute prep. Is that a typical routine that you kind of went through? I know you watch 10 hours of film a day, but, like, is that a typical routine, you think?
Dang, man. I might have needed to be a quarterback because I'm really close. Actually, I did more than that. But as far as on the day off where everybody else is not even coming in, if you don't have any injury, I was already getting 3-4 games, depending on who we were playing. If I had a lot of familiarity with the team, with the division team, I would probably only watch 3 because I've watched already so much film on it. And then every day I'm probably watching 3 more game films, but I'm also breaking down first and second down and third down. Naturally, then you're going through the progression. The coaches are taking you through red zone and 2-minute drill. So you know those, you kind of review those again on Saturday. So I would bring all my stuff instead of going home after practice, which is a quick walkthrough, run through for an hour. I would stay there, shower, and then watch film again before we even leave to go to the airport. I would. It made me feel comfortable. Where I felt like I knew them inside and out, and I could just play free. And I talk about that a lot. But some guys play that's when I say that, I'm talking about no hesitation in your play. You have no hesitation in any movement of your no wasted steps, and you believe what you see. And if you believe what you see and you put in the work, it should be pretty easy. At least it was for me, but I can't say that for everybody.
Right.
And that was kind of my kryptonite for other teams because these guys are super talented, fast, big. I mean, these guys are really impressive, especially in today's game. So. Yeah, there's players still like that, but I felt like, man, coordinators. I had a book on all the coordinators and what they like to run in certain situations. So I kept a notepad, just like I do for this show, just like I did for the league and every year. And then I can even give you, like, we played Peyton Manning, and I was like, oh, man, I went 7 years back.
Yeah.
Just to make sure I knew when I was with the Eagles that they were still doing the same thing. And guess what? They were, because the same coordinator.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Different players,
though. Different players. So, you got to still match up with those players. There wasn't no guy out there running fast like Jackson.
What was interesting is that in that same article about the Peyton Manning thing, the Athletic I was talking about with Brian Callahan earlier, he talks about a certain play that he drew up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in their lone primetime game in 2021 where he went back to Joe Cullen, who was the defensive coordinator, 7 years even as a defensive line coach, watching film to pull up what a play may work against his defense, even though it was a defensive line coach versus defensive coordinator.
Yeah, absolutely.
So good for Brian Callahan on that. Now let's see if we do it for the Tennessee Titans. All right, that will do it for us. 3HL's up next has been covered 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.